And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what is going on in the world today. We'll take a look at some clips from the news and have a little bit of dialogue with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. And if you are listening somewhere else and you would like to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. Hopefully, you can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. I have Monkey joining me today. He is asleep in the chair behind me. You can kind of barely see him. I do try to read through as many comments as is reasonable, and I'll say hello to the people that are able to chime in so far. Wasn't sure I was going to make it because I had no internet. The internet conked out on me like an hour ago, and it's just now coming back up. I wasn't sure I would even be able to do this today. I see Monkey has joined us, as well as Puck and Cyberjack Sr. as we get ready to jump off. Puck wants to know if I slept in. No, I did not sleep in. I wish that was the case. Basically, I was at the mercy of the cable company, which, yeah, that's not the first time that's happened. Jane is here. Glad you could make it today as we get ready to jump off and see what is going on in the world today. Some interesting things been happening over the weekend, and we will get cranking here in a moment. See, Brian made it. Yeah, I made it too. I am behind schedule like more than 20 minutes because of lack of internet access. And out where I am, I got Comcast, and that's it. You don't have really any choices in the matter. You don't really have any choices in the matter. So you're at their mercy. Dragon is here, and Tokay is here. Says YouTube's running like crap. I'm I'm not surprised. Unfortunately. Yeah, and then look at Puck. Justice for Peanut and Fred. No kidding. Actually, I had that queued up, because that's important for a lot of reasons. It's important for a lot of reasons. And I'll go ahead and pull that one up now. And I think it's going to be a USA Today article. Yahweh says it's buffering. Well, hopefully we can stay on. But USA Today article, New York's decision to seize, euthanize Peanut the squirrel is a disgrace, according to the owner. I would think so. But there's a lot more to this story. I think it's kind of interesting because it exposes something. Mark Longo, who called Peanut the squirrel his pet for the last 7 years, described the New York's decision to seize and euthanize the wild animal turned social media star a disgrace. What happened today and what transpired throughout this week has been nothing short of a tragedy and a disgrace to the New York State, Longo told News Nation host Chris Cuomo over the weekend. We used resources from this state to kill a squirrel and a raccoon and raid my house as if I was a drug dealer. We have resources to kill a raccoon and a squirrel, but we can't fix the major bridges down the street. I am appalled. He's right. On November 1st, Peanut the squirrel, a social media star with now more than 692,000 Instagram followers, the account gained more followers after last week's events, was euthanized to test it for rabies, according to a statement from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and Chemung County Department of Health. The statement also said a person involved in the confiscation investigation was bitten by the squirrel. Oh, boo freaking who. I doubt they were bit. I've been bit by squirrels before. They give you a warning bite. It doesn't penetrate the skin. Just FYI. I've been bit before. They tug, and it's a warning like, back off, Jack. They don't break the skin. Okay, number one. Number two, if he was bit by the squirrel, he wasn't handling it properly, because they do have equipment for that, including like almost shoulder length gloves. I've got a pair that goes up past the elbow that I use with the cats for if they're being feisty. And they didn't need to euthanize it to test it for rabies. They know it didn't have rabies. Squirrels can get rabies, rarely, but after 7 years, shit, I'm pretty sure it didn't have it. That was just the excuse they used to kill it. 2 days before the New York Department of Environmental Conservation confiscated Peanut from his home in Pine City, New York, the seizure occurred due to multiple reports from the public about the potential unsafe housing of wildlife that could carry rabies and illegal keeping of wildlife as pets, according to the department. A raccoon known as Fred was also seized from Longo's home and euthanized. Over the weekend, Longo has shared several posts on Peanut's Instagram account, including interviews with news stations, fan art, tributes, and old videos of the pet. Also, it says 692,000 Instagram followers, but all in, Peanut had more than 3 million followers on various accounts. More than 3 million followers. Okay. It was a neighbor who made the complaint. It's already been found out. It's not in the article here. I'm scanning ahead. I'm not seeing it. A neighbor, one person who apparently had some kind of an issue with dude, is the one who made the report. And it goes on here. Can squirrels get rabies? And it tells you it is rare. Squirrels can get rabies, and a squirrel can pass along the virus to a human. But yeah, it is rare, like I had cited earlier. Kimberly says, my heart broke when I heard about Peanut and Fred. Good use of New York resources. Joe says, Democrats prioritizing funding illegal immigrants and executing pets than helping citizens. And Semper Fi has joined us. Helter says, New York has rats running around, but they're worried about a rescued squirrel. Monkey says, if anything happens to animals, sane people will always side with animals. The Trump campaign is using it to their advantage. Dragon says, it's weird when law enforcement goes for the long-hanging fruit, that is little insignificant crimes, but won't climb the tree for the big ones. They have it backwards. Nature Nerd says, senselessly killing animals out of medical fears. It's not even, that's just the excuse that they use. What this is really about is enforcing policy. You have the environment, the Department of Animal Conservation raided this guy's home. This was no small potatoes incident. This is a group of armed men with a warrant banging on the door, searching his home and confiscating animals so they could take them out and euthanize them. They kidnapped and murdered 2 animals to demonstrate that you can only have the pets that we tell you you can have. Those animals were in no danger and they were no threat to anyone. They were domesticated. And you don't have to kill them to test for rabies either. Puck says, it's my understanding there's no history of transmitting rabies to humans from squirrels. Like I said, they can get it. They don't eat meat, so they're not likely to get it unless they're bit by an animal that has it. And any animal that catches up with a squirrel is not going to let it live. But they can get it. Transmitting it to a person, highly unlikely. Kimberly says, why didn't they take them to a refuge or wildlife rehabilitation center? Because it's not about rescuing the animal or protecting anyone. It's about enforcing the idea that we're in charge and you do what we damn well tell you to do. This reminds me of, and stuff like this happens all the time. It just happens to be that this particular squirrel had social media accounts with more than 3 million followers. And so word got around, hey, look what the hell these people are doing in New York. They killed the freaking squirrel? Are you serious? Meanwhile, they got 100 million rats running around in the city. And nothing is done about it. Nothing. Nature Nerd says medical authoritarianism. Fluke Man says, reminds me of Ross Geller's Monkey and Friends. Think it was a bad idea to show, the show made it look sad. Ross, his monkey. Puck says politically motivated, plain and simple. Sure, it's enforcement. Nature Nerd says evil assholes on power trips. It reminds me of a story a few years back where there was a deer. Mama deer was killed. I think this sound familiar to anybody? The baby was taken to a veterinarian for care. but whatever state that was doesn't permit that sort of thing. So literally a SWAT team showed up, removed the deer, took it out and killed it. It was all over the news some years ago. Joe says New York has literal mountains of trash on the sidewalks, and this is their priority. Tuck says, I've been bitten by a squirrel. It bit me like 8 times. It really wasn't that bad. Lots of tiny holes. I patched it quickly. Yeah, that's like a warning shot from a squirrel. That's like I said, I've been bit by a squirrel a couple of times, and it's like tap, tap, tap. Basically, dude, leave me the hell alone is what that boils down to. But it really didn't even break the skin. That animal was not a threat. And they know it was not a threat. Some asshole neighbor called this in. And this is what happened. This is the end result. Overreach of government and overuse of authority. All that time, money, and manpower wasted to round up a freaking squirrel and a raccoon. I'm waiting to see whether or not dude's going to face charges. Not likely now with the media outcry, because this story has gone international because it showcases the overreach of authority in the United States. This is how far we're willing to go to rub your face in it that you're not as free as you thought. This is a big FU from the government, even though it's on the county level in New York. It's a big FU from the government. We're going to grind your face in it. We're going to grind your face in it. We're the ones that make the decisions. We're the ones that are in charge. We're the ones that tell you what you can and cannot do. We're the ones. Spectre is here. He says, sorry, haven't been around much. Had to take a break from all the insanity. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. And Jane says, sad about Fred and Peanut. It was not necessary. No. It was not necessary. Not at all. Kimberly says there's a special place in hell for the neighbor and those agents. Yeah, well, we're just sorry about those squirrel and all that, but we're just doing our job. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they're just doing it. It's just part of the job. It's nothing personal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's the response you're going to get. Joe says they met a relative from the other side of the family at a wedding this weekend. He said he just did 6-month deployment in the Middle East, and every service member stands with Trump. I think most people do. I mean, every once in a while I see a Harris Waltz sign, but mostly I don't see any of that out here, even in the black neighborhoods. There's a couple, but I don't know. I think people have had more than enough, especially after this last fiasco. While we're on that subject, anyway, that hits me right in the feels anyways, as far as the squirrel. Like I said, that thing was no threat. It was not a threat. It was fully domesticated. It was well cared for. It was not a danger to anyone. And you see a lot of this nonsense going on also, even with the cats. Look how much trouble I go through trying to find help for the cats and then still end up paying for it. And I don't know if anyone saw, for those of you who are on my cat channel, the Stray Cat Sanctuary, where I did that film, the short from McDonald's yesterday. Who saw that? And D'Lo is here. Glad you could make it today. Well, for those of you who did not, the short, I was at a McDonald's in Covington. My wife wanted fries. So we were at a McDonald's in Covington. And when we came out of the McDonald's, the truck was surrounded by cats, probably because they could smell our cats on the truck. I counted 7, and they're living in the woods right behind that McDonald's. And I guess they come out and scavenge, and they look pretty rough. They're a rough looking bunch. One of the cats, his ear is completely missing. And I filmed a short really quick. And I actually called someone about that. I called the person that helped me with my TNVR just recently and asked him, do you know anything about a McDonald's in Covington with a bunch of cats? And they do know. This is where it gets interesting. They do know. They were like, yeah, I know. I can't do anything because it's outside of my jurisdiction, because they got it all blocked off. You can't cross borders. You can't cross from one county to another to help an animal. It's a load of shit. But I saw maybe 7. I've heard there's as many as a dozen. Okay, but she told me, yeah, I know, I've heard about this. There are a couple of people out there who are trying to watch out for them and are feeding them, that are willing to pay for services to get them caught. McDonald's won't let them do it. They won't let them. Brian says squirrels are probably more afraid of humans than humans are of them. Of course, they're so small. And Joe says he drove from Milwaukee to Omaha, and saw endless Trump signs and virtually no Harris signs. Good. And here is Chance. Chance is joining us here today from Nostalgic Pod Blast. And he is, of course, associated with fistfulofradio.com. And you can find Chance on there as well. Kimberly says, I keep seeing news reports about how secure our vote is in Georgia. They keep saying it over and over. Like, who are you trying to convince by reiterating it over and over? Well, keep in mind also that you got Stacey Abrams out here screaming her head off, saying that people are being oppressed from voting in Georgia. She's back on that trip again. She's back on that again. But yeah, McDonald's will not allow them to help. They don't want anybody back there, because they've been trying to get permission from McDonald's senior management to put traps back there. Like, no, we don't want anybody on our property doing anything. So basically, they got a bunch of feral cats back there suffering, and will not do anything about it, will not allow anyone to help. And H12 has joined us. H12 has joined us, and Puck says the Peanut and Fred memes are awesome. I've seen a few of those. They are funny. Kimberly says one of our McDonald's has a back old parking lot with some feral kitties. They have shelters set up for them and feed them well. Oh, it's something at least. And Nostalgic says the story was sad about the murdered pets in New York. And again, that is absolutely 100% a solid example of the abuse of power and government overreach. We will tell you what you can and cannot do. Hell, we'll take your pets and kill them. Just to set an example. You follow our rules. It makes me think also of, and I've mentioned this before, when I was still living in Illinois, in was I in Cook County? No, I was not in Cook County. I was in Kane County, which borders Cook County. But they took away your rights to own a chicken. And then when everybody was pissed off, they came up with this regulation where they could sell you a chicken license. Nothing changed about what you would do with those chickens or house them or how many you had or what, as far as I can tell. But they basically took a right from you and sold it back. That's your government for you. Fluke Man says, and yet America's full of rats, and the government, police, 3-letter agencies, education system, ghettos, and etc. As I try to catch up. And Bakari is here. Glad you could make it today. Joe says, if a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, he's obligated to do so. Unfortunately, the law will come down pretty damn hard on that person. And Nostalgic says he's not a fan of early voting. Yeah, and I got to agree with that, because while you're waiting, you don't know what's happening to it. Look what's been going on. Washington and Oregon, ballot boxes being set on fire, ballot boxes falling off of trucks in Florida, all kinds of nonsense. But speaking of nonsense, shady business from SNL. If you've seen this, and this is an Axios article, NBC files equal time notice for Harris SNL appearance after the FCC chief slams the network. I don't know. I don't watch Saturday Night Live. I'd be surprised if anybody watching right now did. The show's been dead for more than 20 years. It should have been taken off the air more than 20 years ago. It's kept on the air because it's an institution like the Tonight Show. It's on because it's on. or late night. It's on because it's on. Those shows have been losing ratings in the ratings for decades. Decades. But Saturday Night Live hangs on, SNL as it were, but they are very left leaning and very political. Very, very political. NBC filed an equal time notice with the Federal Communications Commission on Sunday night after the FCC chief raised concerns about Vice President Harris's appearance on Saturday Night Live. FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr said on X that Harris's appearance, alongside her on-screen doppelganger of Maya Rudolph, Saturday was a clear and blatant effort to evade the rule that's designed to avoid exactly this type of biased and partisan conduct. Essentially, and it's interesting enough, it's actually NBC, the network, that is filing this complaint. NBC's the one filing the complaint against the producers of SNL directly. This isn't coming from like some Trump supporter or some RNC group or whatever. This is NBC saying, what the hell are you doing down there? You're going to get the network in trouble. They snuck her in at the 11th hour because this was Saturday. So there is no time for Trump to come on now. It was obviously done as a campaign stunt, which means that the opposite party deserves the same treatment if it's used for campaigning. Now Trump can't get that. It's a major violation. That's a major shit show. I would love to see them finally taken off the air. They're useless. Fluke Man says, guess that McDonald's is infested with rats and roaches and needs the cats to keep them in check. There you go. Or it could get fined or even shut down. I'm suspicious why they're refusing to help animals in need. And Lucky is here. He made it. Yes, you did. I'm a little late today. About 20 minutes or so, because I had no internet. The internet was down for roughly an hour. So I'm at their mercy. And Nostalgic says that's SNL skit fell flat as a pancake. You still watch SNL. Shame on you. You know only like the first dozen or so seasons count. Tuck says I stopped watching SNL in the early 2000s. Lucky says Norm Macdonald was the last good one. Helter says they'll investigate themselves and find nothing wrong. There you go. Dragon said she skipped Joe Rogan but did SNL, and it shows her priorities. I agree. Puck says SNL is state TV like the rest of late night. And Spectre said same skit Trump did when he was on SNL. Really? And Lucky wants to know if I'm running to 5. No. I'll do an hour like I always do. Nice try there, Lucky. Everybody's always trying to get me to stay on here for like 4 hours. I can't do it. I can't do it. Oh, my God. As we get around here, we have a fact check for you. And this one is really interesting. Because they're not quite telling the truth. I knew I'd get one sooner or later because the last 2 fact checks I pulled up actually turned out to be telling the truth. This one, they're equivocating. Snopes, again, Biden administration didn't approve directive giving Pentagon permission to kill U.S. protesters. Have you heard this one? The claim, before the 2024 presidential election, the Biden-Harris administration issued Department of Defense Directive 5420.01, which gave the U.S. Armed Forces the power to use lethal force against protesting U.S. civilians. And they rate it as true. Oh, they did rate it as true. Oh, no, what's true? I read it wrong. It says the Biden-Harris administration did issue DoD Directive 5420.01. The document does contain text explaining when military assets may assist civilian law enforcement, including when an individual is allowed to use lethal force. But their rating is false. It says the directive does not give the U.S. military the green light to kill protesting U.S. civilians. nor is it a secret way to enact martial law. Now, why this is equivocating, or why I think that it is, it does give them authorization to use lethal force on civilians while working with law enforcement. The fact that it does not specifically quote protesters doesn't mean that protesters won't be the ones getting killed. So they equivocated with that. Puck says even Fetterman did Rogan's show. Kimberly says they haven't watched SNL in a long time. And Nostalgic reminds us the Saturday Night Live 1975 movie recently bombed at the box office. I did not even know there was one. So they fact-checked Directive 5420.01 that was put into effect not too long ago, September 27th, 2024, that gives the military, National Guard, authorization to use lethal force in conjunction with police activities, is false. Why? Because it doesn't specifically say that they'll kill protesters, but it does allow for them to use lethal force on civilians. So, yeah. And that's really interesting because that ties in with this story. Get your foil hats on. We're going to jump to an article by CNN. Tell me why this is going on. Anytime, Restream. There we go. The National Guard troops are on standby in Washington State and Oregon and Nevada as a precaution for the potential of election unrest. So we're deploying the National Guard to in various states now because they're worried about political unrest during the election. Ahead of potential civil unrest due to Tuesday's presidential election. Keep in mind, that's tomorrow, people. The National Guard is on standby as a precaution in several states, including Washington State and Oregon, where hundreds of ballots were damaged or destroyed after at least 3 ballot drop boxes were recently set on fire. They say they named 3 states, but they say several. What is several? How many states are they really in? Almost all the ballots set ablaze on Monday were in a drop box in Vancouver, Washington. They're going on and on to talk about the ballot boxes here now. I don't want to know about that. I want to know about National Guard troops being deployed because of the possibility of civil unrest. And I'm looking at paragraph after paragraph talking about ballot box fires. We know this. All right, here we go. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security has warned that threats to election infrastructure remain high. Based upon general and specific information and concerns regarding the potential for violence or other unlawful activity related to the 2024 general election, I want to ensure we are fully prepared to respond to any potential additional civil unrest, according to Inslee. So, yeah, that's cute. So now in several states, including Washington, Oregon, and Nevada, there are boots on the ground to make sure you don't cut up. Puck says Democrats' plan is not to certify the election if Trump wins. That's when you'll see rhinos show their true colors. Remember, this is the party that during the presidential inauguration surrounded the White House with 24,000 troops to keep people away. Flukeman never watched SNL. Don't think it was available in the UK. Makes me want to buy pre-2000s SNL on DVD. Box sets are available for the early years. Rodney's here. He says Democrats are doing it again because they got away with it the last time. Spectre says the ones that had Chris Farley in them, everything after that was garbage. Still talking about SNL here. Age 12 would rather watch Laugh-In. Or how about the Carol Burnett Show? Carol Burnett Show was better. I thought so. So National Guard, boots on the ground in various states, although they don't tell you what all those states are. I'm trying to read ahead to see if they name more than 3 states. because they said multiple states. Multiple states. Yeah. And just like I read in the last article, National Guard has authorization to use lethal force alongside police in crowd control efforts now, according to that last article we just read, even though it did not specifically mention protesters. That wasn't specific. They weren't specific about that. Helter says a lot of sheep will get emotionally riled up just because their politician didn't win. They have to suck it up and move on. Everybody else does. Everybody else does. I got to suck it up. You think I like Biden being in office? It's been a disaster. It's been a disaster. Kimberly says the Carol Burnett show was my favorite. And Lucky says soldiers wear makeup nowadays, so no worries. It doesn't mean they won't shoot you. Inspector says SCTV, remember that late night TV show, Second City Television with John Candy. Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the few crossovers, because the McKenzie brothers started off on SCTV and ended up on Saturday Night Live when SCTV went off. Cruising says it's been a disaster is an understatement. No kidding. It has been really bad. It's been a really, really bad ride. Hi, Granny Smith. Hi, Granny Smith. I've got Granny Smith in here with me. Sitting on the floor. There's Granny Smith. Oh, she heard me calling her now. She's coming over. Hi, darling. Come here. You want to say hello? You want to say hello to everybody? There's Granny Smith. How are you? How are you, dear? You okay? Granny Smith, everybody. Feisty? No, she's not feisty. She's only feisty if anybody else touches her, apparently. I think some of you are familiar with the story about me trying to take her into the center when I was doing the other adoptions, and she turned into a little spitfire and went nuts, and they thought she was totally feral. And I'm like, who, her? The small one? She's the easiest one to get along with. And I pick her up and cradle her like a baby, and they couldn't believe it. Granny Smith is like, nah, I'm not going nowhere. Come on, darling. I got to get back to my article. And H12 said she's a deer. Yeah, sometimes. Nostalgic reminds us of Strange Brew with Max von Sydow meets the McKenzie brothers. Max von Sydow always played a bad guy. Strange Brew is a weird movie, and the very beginning of the movie, tell me that the first 5 minutes of it doesn't look like a modern YouTube sketch. Doesn't look like a modern YouTube sketch. I'll read one more article and then we'll move on. Or comment, rather. Nature Nerd says the jobs report was abysmal. 12,000 jobs this month for a country of 350 million people. And that is considering that they keep altering those jobs reports. They've been altering those jobs reports for almost the last 4 years. Every month, they've redacted the original number and changed it to the authentic number, which is considerably lower than previously, by as much as close to 50% in some cases. It was a disaster. And Kimberly made a donation to the channel for, I guess, the cats. I appreciate that, Kimberly. All the help I can get where the cats are concerned. Always appreciate it, Kimberly. Thank you for that. And Puck says, good job, Granny Smith. Yeah, they thought she was straight feral. They got scared. Dude couldn't handle her with the gloves. Now, if you were watching or watched any of this over the weekend, the Democratic convention in Milwaukee with Cardi B dressing like Jacqueline Kennedy there and making an ass of herself. Making an absolute ass of herself. Nostalgic says Wayne's World was like the McKenzie brothers sketches. And Kimberly says, I know how to get her in the feels. Well, I mean, yeah, I got a real soft spot for the cats myself, so I don't know what to tell you. I can't help myself. But Cardi B making a fool of herself. Is there a video clip of this on here? If there's a video clip of this on here, I'll run it. But this is a Time India article. Patience, where are you? Cardi B desperately calls manager after teleprompter fail. Rapper Cardi B took the stage at a rally in Milwaukee, Wisconsin to endorse Kamala Harris and bring her voice to the campaign. But the moment took an unexpected twist when Cardi's teleprompter reportedly malfunctioned, leaving her without her prepared speech. And she was clueless. She didn't know what the hell to do. In the brief pause, Cardi kept her composure. No, she did not. Joking with the crowd and filling the gap with a bit of humor. I'm a little nervous now, guys. I'm a little nervous, she said with a laugh. She did not keep her composure. That's putting it mildly. Then looking for her manager, she called, hold on, guys. I need patience over here. Patience, where are you? Trying to keep the crowd engaged, she added, hold on, guys. How are you guys doing tonight? Are we ready to make history? And finally, her manager, Patience Foster, rushed on stage, handing her a phone with the script in it. I want to see if I have a video clip of this. It was actually really pathetic to watch. And Nostalgic says she's trash. Yeah, she is. This is the woman. This is who we want representing Kamala Harris. A woman who was a stripper that used to drug and rob people. She admitted it. She admitted it. Not that this wasn't embarrassing enough. You know what was really embarrassing was Barack Obama on stage rapping Eminem lyrics. Who caught that? I mean, Eminem was there because he's a pandering piece of shit too. she Oh, I'm going to see if this will play. Oh, here we go.
One second, guys, 1 second. Okay, so I don't take lightly the call. Sorry, guys, I'm a little nervous. Guys. I've been waiting for this moment my whole life.
If you were waiting for that moment your whole life, you would know what the hell to say.
I need patience over here. Patience, where are you, girl? I need patience over here.
I'm sorry. Contrary to the article, this does not look like someone who's maintaining their composure. She looks like she's about to fall apart. Yeah, keep smiling.
Hold on. How you guys doing tonight? How you guys doing tonight? Are we ready to make history? Are we ready to make history? Are we ready to change these 4 years? No. Are we ready to change the next 8 years? Because we're going to make sure we have Kamala Harris in office for 8 years. Thank you.
That's not maintaining your composure. Okay? That's fallen apart. And she's been waiting her whole life, and she goes on after she gets her phone, because that's where that clip ends. She goes on to prattle on about how she spent days, was it days or however long, writing that speech and rehearsing it, but you got to read it off of your phone. And barely. You should hear her trying to read this. It's pathetic. It really is. Never trust anybody. Never trust anybody who cannot tell you what they think. Okay? It's as simple as that. If they can't get up there, you know what? Sorry, teleprompter's not working, but here we go. You know what? I'm just gonna wing it here, buddy. Why can't you do that? Did you see Hulk Hogan with a teleprompter? Anybody? I don't think he had one. Rodney says that Cardi B seems utterly clueless. They all are. They are all clueless if they don't have a script in front of them. If they don't have that teleprompter going, they don't know what the hell to do. They don't know what to do. Look at this woman. If they don't have a script and a teleprompter, they shut down. We've seen this happen to Waltz. We've seen this happen to Harris when she fell apart, when her teleprompter got stuck. And how many times did she read the last sentence over and over and over again? If you're passionate about this, then you can talk about it. You can talk about something, engage the audience. This is a person who's supposed to be used to being on stage and addressing people. Engage your audience. She didn't keep her composure. I'm surprised she didn't cry. Dragon says she couldn't speak without a teleprompter. Therefore, her political opinion means nothing. Cruising says Harris is trying to drug and rob the whole country, serving up her opiate of progressive bullshit to the masses while selling us all out and fleecing us. Exactly. Nostalgic believes that paid extras are in that crowd. I wouldn't be surprised. Tuck never liked Eminem. Some of the worst rap he's heard. As I catch on, Jericho thinks she sounds loud and raggedy. Tuck says her voice is like throwing sacks of onions in the wood chipper. Wow. That's a high pitch. I feel bad for Patience. She didn't get up on that stage fast enough. I bet you she'll be hearing some shit later. Puck says Cardi B not being able to offer an opinion without a script demonstrates what a fraud the Harris campaign is. Cruising says, how does she remember lyrics if she can't remember a speech? We don't know if she sings on stage. She could be lip syncing. Kimberly suggests she was told what to think. Lucky says Macho Man used one. What, a script? Helter says if she truly believes Harris is the one for president, she should be able to speak from the heart. And don't think that the first thing out of her mouth wasn't about reproductive rights. Don't think for a minute that didn't come up like right away. That's always the approach. Yo, them reproductive rights. Word to your mother. Word up, homeboy. Oh no. I don't know what to tell you. And I mean, look at the lineup. Look at these trashy people that they bring out. And again, I don't have it on here, but Obama trying to rap, talking about mom's spaghetti and whatever. It's like, God, just be quiet, please. Please shut up. Please shut up. Then you got this going on. We're going to jump back to New York really quickly. As they try to bully you into voting. And this is a Hill article. Anytime there, Restream. Let's go, huh? Haven't got all day. All right, Restream. We're in here. It's lagging. Hill article. I'll go on while I wait for it to pop up. Holchel says that New Yorkers who vote Republican are anti-woman and anti-American. Oh, here it is. You're anti-woman and you're anti-American if you vote for any Republican. Yeah, that's not intimidation at all. New York Governor Kathy Hochul said New Yorkers who vote Republican in the state's tight congressional races are anti-woman and anti-American. Quote, if you're voting for these Republicans in New York, you're voting for someone who supports Donald Trump. And you're anti-woman and you're anti-abortion. And basically you're anti-American because you've just trashed American values and what our country is about over and over. And you wear this on Election Day, Hochul said Saturday. Hochul argued The Trump rally in New York City last weekend backfired on him and said she wanted to remind her constituents what their vote means to her. I don't give a shit. So that's going to work. Oh, God, my vote's important to Governor Hochul. I better do what she wants. I better do what she wants. That's intimidation. That's coercion. That's coercion. Dragon suggests that the woman is like Kamala Harris, an empty shell. That is absolute coercion. If you don't vote this way, you're like this. I mean, it's real easy to sit there and I could say something like, oh, Democrats are all morons. I can't know that. And just because someone votes Democrat doesn't mean that they're a bad person necessarily. You see what I'm saying? You can't make a blanket discriminatory statement like that and not expect some kind of backlash. You see what I'm saying? Kimberly says, I'm loving the ad saying your friends and family members can check to see if you voted. Yeah, I get that one constantly. Constantly. People won't know who you're voting for, but they can find out if you voted. Like my family and friends are really going to go and check to see if I voted. Let them try. Let them try. Helter says, that's rich coming from the person who said Black American children didn't know what a computer was. That's right. And that's another blanket statement. Like all Black people don't know what a computer is, or all Black children don't know what a computer is. Maybe there are some who don't, but guess what? You can't assume all of them do or don't. Rodney says the left went insane a long while ago. Their current behavior is beyond farcical. Cruising says the only vote Holchi deserves is a recall vote. Yeah, good luck. And Puck says the New York DEC should test Governor Hochul for rabies. Yeah, I know. That's Department of Conservation. Make sure she can't bite anybody. She actually said that. If you're voting for these Republicans in New York, you're voting for someone who supports Donald Trump. You don't know that. And you're anti-woman. I'm anti-woman because I didn't vote the way you wanted me to. I don't hate women. You're anti-abortion. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. But you don't have the right to throw that on me without knowing. And you're anti-American. Man, it's hard to find anything that is American anymore, especially with these governments. Tuck says, if my friends and family don't like how I vote, they can forget I exist. But that's just me. No kidding. No kidding. Now, as we jump around here, you'll get a kick out of this. And this is New York. No, this isn't New York City. This is Texas. This is an article taking place in Texas, Newsweek. On the air. Illegal immigration. Texas soldiers are firing pepper spray at migrants. Is it coming up? Newsweek article. Come on now. Come on now. Here we go. So, Texas soldiers have fired pepper spray guns at a group of 45 migrants who illegally crossed the Mexican border into the U.S. Footage shared on social media by News Nation reporter Ali Bradley shows soldiers deploying the guns, which launched pepper balls that disperse on impact at the undocumented citizens after they crossed the Rio Grande. The migrants can be seen covering their mouths and noses with their clothes to escape irritants at Shelby Park in Eagle Pass. Newsweek contacted Texas National Guard for comment outside of normal office hours. So they didn't get an answer. Big surprise. Immigration and border security are among the top concerns for voters in the upcoming election. In a poll from October, I don't need to read the poll, you already know. Of course, it's a big concern. But that's another way they've been deterring. Here the guy is. That is obviously a pepper. That is obviously a paintball gun, and it's painted yellow, so it is for police use. And they're firing pepper balls. They're firing pepper balls at the crowds of people that are trying to cross the border. Hey, you know, in some countries, they fire real bullets. You'll die trying to cross the border, not in America, although that's the most aggressive I've seen anybody in recent years. What I think is interesting that the article refers to them as, let me see, undocumented citizens. Undocumented citizens. They're not citizens. Think about that terminology. They called them undocumented citizens. They're not citizens. That's why they're trying to keep them the hell out. That's why we're trying to keep them out of the country. Undocumented citizens. Seriously. Kimberly checked to see if their parents voted in 2020, and they did it because they both have passed away and they wanted to see how much they trust. That's how much they trust the results. Lucky says if voting mattered, we wouldn't be allowed to do it. Rodney says pepper spray seems fairly a mild deterrent to invaders. Yes. And Lucky says that looks like a fun job. You want to go work for Texas Border Patrol? You could stand on top of an ATV and fire pepper balls at people. I just get a kick out of the fact that this article refers to them as undocumented citizens. Yes, they are undocumented, but no, they are not citizens. That's the problem. I can't believe the wording of things nowadays, the stuff that they try to pass off in the media or that politicians try to pass off, undocumented citizens. Give me a damn break. You've got to be kidding me. And they're unhoused too, I imagine. Unhoused and undocumented. Unhoused and undocumented. Tuck says rewriting history and language and science and other subjects is SOP for the anti-Farrakhan party. And they're changing the language. Changing the language. Unhoused. Unhoused. Undocumented citizens. It's absolutely insane. Flukeman says far left calls Second Amendment murderers but demands women's health care, and yet they don't see how ironic they are. No, they don't want to see it. They don't want to see it. Jericho suggests it's like George Carlin's soft language, and Lucky says he prefers the prone position with pepper balls. There you go. There you go. Pepper balls. Well, I mean, it could be worse. Now, this next article that I pulled up, I thought was very interesting. In case you ever wondered what happened to all those clothes you donated, cool down article. Expert calls out massive industry's impact across the globe. Most brands don't yet see it as their responsibility. Now, if you're wondering what that is, right there in that picture, all this, and it goes way back, that is a landfill full of clothing in Africa. Article reads, a fashion writer focused on sustainability is calling out fast fashion's detrimental impact on Guyana in a new piece for The Guardian. Millions of pieces of discarded items arrive in the African country every week, polluting beach shores and threatening native turtles. As fashion writer Fleur Bruton explains for the news outlet, the nonprofit or foundation estimates that Guyana imports around 15 million garments every week. Approximately 40% of those can't be reused and end up as informally dumped trash because the country lacks infrastructure to deal with it. The OR Foundation has reached out to major fashion brands to support Guyana through their Extended Producer Responsibility or EPR programs. For its part, Shen donated $15 million to OR 2 years ago as part of its EPR, per the report. Though the company has made headlines in 2024 following allegations of human rights abuses and greenwashing. However, OR co-founder Liz Ricketts suggested that the nonprofit's appeals, didn't make headway, telling The Guardian that most brands don't yet see it as their responsibility. So if it's about helping them recognize how this applies to their circulatory goals, why it's important. According to a new report from Greenpeace, fast fashion is at the root of an environmental and public health disaster that is unfolding in Accra, which is Guyana's capital city, situated on the Atlantic Ocean. It found that most of the discarded clothes contain synthetic materials made with dirty energy, which leaches hazardous chemicals into the water and soil as they slowly break down. Okay, so what the hell is this talking about? Basically, all over Africa, and specifically in Guyana, all right, clothing is being just haphazardly dumped, like you see in this photo, where you've got, it looks like a landfill. It's actually a beach. They have nowhere left to dump the clothes. Charities are blaming the fashion industry for this. Oh, well, you manufacture this stuff and it's made with all these toxic chemicals and it's made with nylon and Orlon and all this other stuff. So it's your fault. And so you need to donate to our charities to help to curb this problem. So they collect money from the clothing manufacturers in the form of charitable donations and do nothing with it because all they have is awareness programs and bullshit. Meanwhile, in Africa, they just dump this stuff all over the place. Where is this clothing actually coming from? It's not coming from the fashion industry. It's coming from Goodwill. It's coming from the Salvation Army. It's coming from Value Village. It's coming from all these charities that run charity shops or collect donated clothing. Because when that stuff doesn't sell in the US and charity stores, they send it overseas. They put it on the boat and it gets dumped off in Africa and they pick through it to see if they can use any. And the rest of it ends up in landfills. More than 40% of it is useless. And they don't know what to do with it. How is that the fashion industry's fault? It's a chain of charity scams is what it is. It's a chain of charity scams. You're being scammed by Goodwill and AmVets and Value Village and all the rest of them because they take your donations and rather than do the right thing with it here, when they can't sell it, they pack it up and they ship it overseas for a tax write-off. All right? They get it. They can't use it. They can't burn it, which is probably the best option because of regulations being imposed on them from other governments, from first world nations that want them to be green. And then the organizations that are supposed to help to oversee any of this, that are collecting money from apparently the fashion industry, use it for awareness programs and regulations. They're not helping anybody. And Puck wants to know where the cash goes. Well, they pay themselves to put out advertising. Cruising says maybe they should teach the locals how to manage waste. They need to build burn pits. It's all fabric. Hell, it's Africa. Who cares? Tuck says from the thousands of fraudulent charities in existence. That's right. Cruising says the pile of trash looks like a U.S. city after a progressive protest. And that pile is clothing. That's all clothing. Puck says illegals here get to shop at Macy's, not Goodwill. No kidding. And Raccoon has joined us. Raccoon is late, but I was late anyways. I was already late because, of course, I had trouble getting on the air because the internet was down for more than an hour. But with that, we are at the top of the hour, late though it may be. So again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, cable permitting, on YouTube on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. Special thanks to Kimberly, who made a donation to the channel today. Much appreciated. Thank you, everyone else who was able to join us here today. Hope you all got something out of the conversation. And